Next, we have Tropical Depression Miami. They are no longer the Miami Hurricanes. They have been downgraded to a tropical depression. For those of you that live in Florida, can appreciate how great of a joke that was. So, thank you. And
the chat's been ready for this. They've been, I don't know if you've seen them, but they've been chomping at the bit for this. I'm sure that this popping up is super, like, but this is perfect for them. They have been talking about this, and the fact that we're about to touch on it is probably about 5 to 10 minutes late for us. But guys, trust me, we're going to get to it. They've been going at it in the chat here for the last about 10 minutes.
So, Tropical Depression Miami. The reason I bring this up, it is very interesting to look. I was trying to see how they're doing recruiting because I wanted to kind of to see how the Florida teams are doing. Now, as much as I would love to rag on Florida State, as of now, according to 247, they're ahead of Florida. Not an overall rating, but I believe they're ahead in rankings. According to 247, On3 has us rated much higher. But Florida State is doing better than they have in the past. They're on the ball early, so kudos to them. Miami, however, is nowhere to be seen. They have a kicker, a 3-star kicker on the board. Now, I'm not saying panic or anything like that. And I did look, this is a little bit of a knock to the ACC, and I did preface this to Steve earlier. Look, it could be due to the fact that the ACC has not been as competitive in recruiting like the SEC. Georgia already has 5 from 2025. I want to say Bama has 2 or 3. If you want to compete in that field, you have to be on that same level. Clemson, Florida State, Miami, they're not in that same level, and they don't have to be. I've told Steve, they can finish in 15 in recruiting and have success in the ACC. Now, will it come back to bite them long term? Sure, but that's a whole other step. So could you make that argument for Miami like they don't have to, it's still early? Sure. They did really well late last year. That's another argument that you can make as well, too. To me, and I'm obviously going to be on the cup half empty side, just because it's Miami, is it looks like their big spending at the end of the year last year maybe biting him in the butt a little bit. You got TJ Capers, the number 1 defensive tackle, who was from Miami, commit to Louisville. You got Louisville recruiting ahead of you that has 3 guys, a 5-star, a 4-star, and then now they have a quarterback as well. And you've got Miami, again, not existing, and Mario Cristobal is supposed to be the GOAT of recruiting. Now, again, the biggest argument is going to be that it's early, but I think we can all state that, look, you got to get started at some time, and I don't even see them really being crystal balled or any noise at all. Steve?
No, this is actually very surprising considering the Miami that we watched towards the end of the last recruiting cycle and just the amount of just momentum that it felt like they had. Now, obviously, and we'll talk about this here in just a moment as well, there's been some questions in regard to NIL and whether a lot of that money that was promised is going to actually flow through to the players. But at this point, look, you've got a new coach. Cristobal's first year was not very good. There's a lot of noise in the NIL system. It sounds, as much as this is surprising to me, considering how much money is down there, it feels like with Ruiz, who we'll touch on here in just a second, but it feels like with Ruiz being a little bit shaky financially, it's like their whole NIL fell apart. Like the whole Miami Hurricane NIL was one guy with an open checkbook, and that one guy putting any type of questions in regard to the recruiting machine that Cristobal swears he is. And now you're looking at going into the summer session with one recruit, and that's a kicker. And I mean, don't get me wrong, you've had some visits, but you're going to naturally get visits at Miami just because of your proximity to all the really good high schools that are down there. Half of these kids could walk to the campus or take a short bus ride, to the campus. So you're naturally going to get recruits, and if you're not, then you're really doing something wrong. You're going to get these visits, but I don't really understand what's going on down there. I think there's a lot more questions and we've done our digging. There's probably a lot more questions for the recruits than what we've turned up on our own. And if you're a recruit right now with other teams playing well, recruiting well, NIL's running well, what's the point of dealing with the Miami and their nonsense? Especially considering you don't know if Cristobal can pull them out. They don't have a quarterback still. What the hell are they going to do? So there's just a lot of questions floating around in Coral Gables right now, and I don't think Cristobal has ever been the guy to answer those questions. That's just not his thing.
And look, being behind the 8 ball in recruiting, you're coming off a 5-win season, which isn't great. If you're behind the 8 ball, meaning you're going to pull things in late, you can excuse a 5-7 in your first season and get away and still have a pretty decent recruiting class because, like, look, we're building something. If you procrastinate and bank off the season again and you have a failing season again, It's going to be hard to backfill that twice with back-to-back failing seasons. I'm not saying Miami's going to have one, but there isn't really a trend to show that they're going to just automatically catapult to having a super successful year. Not to my opinion, not much has changed. But obviously, again, I know I'm going to be a little biased with being a Gator fan, so any Miami fans that's watching this, you got to take some of it with a grain of salt. I'm kind of poking the bear a little bit. Love to have a Miami fan to discuss this some more. And I know, look, Miami fans probably aren't even going to be watching this because, again, they show up in August anyways, maybe September, or don't follow it as closely.
No, just in the Twitter Spaces.
Yeah, and it's sometimes they're on there, so we'll see. We'll see how.
24/7.
What's that?
I said 24/7.
Oh, yeah, they are on the Twitter Spaces. That is for sure. What's your thoughts on the depression in Miami?
Oh, where do I start, man? Where do I start?
Oh, geez, he's been waiting for this.
Hey, I'll say this, man. I'll take my Gator bias out of this. I'll take the I don't like Miami bias, whatever. I don't even really hate Miami because they suck. So how's it hard to hate somebody that's really bad at football? But this whole John Ruiz situation. First of all, if I had a guy that was running my NIL, right, and he was a lawyer, worked with whoever, and he's consistently running his mouth on Twitter, like saying this, that, the other, like he's very insecure. You can tell he's a very insecure individual, but like he consistently runs his mouth. Then on top of that, releases a stock on the stock market, which is right now at 67 cents when it started at $10. So he's down 11% from yesterday. He's about to be delisted on NASDAQ if it doesn't get above $1 a share. On top of all the numerous articles that have been released by him by national reporters, guys with like 2 million followers talking about just all different things of his company being delisted and this lawsuit. He's got a lawsuit going on right now with the original acquirers of LifeWallet because he never paid them the money to acquire LifeWallet. It's a $12.5 million lawsuit. And he will probably lose that if they have valid proof of him not. I wouldn't put it behind me that they didn't pay him. So all these people that are on there saying, oh, well, Ruiz is a billionaire and all that. He doesn't. And I've been told this, too. He doesn't have the money everybody thinks he does. I mean, I pulled up an article just the other day. It was posted January the 26th that says Miami, John Ruiz sold one of his Coral Gables Estates properties at a discounted $30 million when it's supposed to be worth $45 million. Nobody's going to sell their estates or their mansions and discount it unless they are running out of something.
Money.
So,
sure.
Right. So anytime that anybody has posted anything about John Ruiz that was not even remotely bad, but looked bad on him, he's always said it was inaccurate and wrong. But there's always been proof. Like that article that was written about him getting sued, he said it was inaccurate. But you can go to the Miami-Dade County Court Jail court website and pull up all the court documents of him getting sued. It happened February the 1st. I think the court date is in May. So how's any of this stuff inaccurate when you can go online and find it all? It just makes no sense to me. But of course, it is what it is.
And look, with him being the face of recruiting, not the face, but definitely an input. I mean, could it be correlated? And it's something we talked about last year. I said it time and time again. Look, right now
he's very quiet right now.
Yeah, right now when it was happening, I said, look, Flash the plan. He's doing great things. He's buying players, and it's working. And I said this. I was very adamant that it was working for Miami. I said long term, I don't believe that it will. And now it's starting to play out. We'll see. Good look. I could still buy myself, and be wrong here, but things
he has a 2,500% share loss in his company right now. So that goes to show you how much money he lost.
Which was part of funding the recruiting. So